I'm all good to go. Hello. It is Wednesday night, the day before the 4th of July. And my name is Audrey Newmont. Welcome to Conscious Mind Tripping. And tonight is going to be an interesting night because I have had an interesting week. And it's always good when I've had an interesting week. So, before I get started with everything, I'm going to just check and make sure that I'm all right over here. And if anybody would like to join in on messages with me, go to Audrey Newmont on Facebook, Conscious Mind Tripping Audrey Newmont on Facebook. And that's where I can see your comments. And that'll be all good. Whoops. Stop my little voice in here. Here we go. So I can see your comments over here. We'll start with some announcements. We have our psychic fair that is coming up on the 13th of this month in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited for it. We've got some new people, and they are really good at what they do. And you can look on the calendar page at newmontcenter.net to see that. Also, the week after, we're going to be having Nick and I facilitating our Focus on Success class. It's for entrepreneurs, and we give a lot of useful and highly effective information on how to own your abundance, your success with regard to your business, your work, whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're having a challenge in the area of finances, that's where you want to be. Hold on a minute. I'm not looking right over here. Oh, I get it. All right. So looks like I'm still frozen though. Hold on just a minute. Just bear with me. Let me see if I'm frozen over here. Can't be frozen. Nope, I'm not frozen. So change that. Go over to Conscious Mind Tripping with Audrey Newmont on Facebook. And I can see your comments over there. There's a whole process. Or better yet, I'm just going to go see if StreamYard has the comments going. All right. I'm just going to assume that StreamYard has the comments going. So the other announcement is Nick has his mainstream metaphysics on Tuesday. It's his podcast, and he's going to be having those subjects on that show. So a little prequel to it. And then I'm going to be hosting one of the crystal collage workshops that's going to be coming up at the beginning of August. I don't have it on the schedule. And Nick is going to be having his class where he teaches about the crystals coming up as well. Those will go on the schedule tomorrow. Audrey has been a very busy person, so I haven't gotten to putting it on the schedule yet, but there's going to be a lot of fun events coming up soon. So, are you ready? I got things to talk about tonight. So, I want to start by saying tomorrow is the 4th of July. And that's where we as a country celebrate our freedom. And there is a song that Lee Greenwood sings that I love so much. I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave their life for me. So I'll gladly stand up and defend her still today. I love this land. Not part of but I do. I love this land. I love being an American. I've always loved the 4th of July. I love the flag. I love being that patriot within our country. And that's something that I've always loved. I loved putting my hand over my heart, acknowledging the flag and on all of these things. So when I started 4 years ago now, over 4 years ago, looking at all the information that I've looked at, there was a part of it was like for the last 3 4th of Julys, there's been a part of it where it's been like, it's not actually, we're not free. We're not, we free in so many ways. And that's going to be the of tonight. The intention is to share some interesting and useful information that I was able to experience this event Saturday. So there's all these different podcasts that I watch a long time, and then there's different people in the podcasts that I see, and it's like, wow, that person is amazing. So this event that I went to this past Saturday, there were two people in particular that I've been following for a long time, and one of them is this woman by the name of Kathy O'Brien, and she wrote Transformation of America. You can look her up on trans, TRANC dash in transformation. So trans and then dash formation.com. And when I first was digging into all of this, I saw a video of hers. Somebody had said something about her. So I was like, who is this person? I looked her up and I saw this video that she did, and it was like, wow. Number one, oh, wait, before I get to Kathy, I want to say some other things. So hold on to that note because I know I'm excited to talk about her. And the other person was this guy, SG. His actual official title is SG Anon. And I just wanted to address that because I think sometimes people hear like anonymous. And many people that I follow, and they're somewhat anonymous, like this guy, Juan O'Sullivan, he's fairly anonymous. These people, they don't show their face when they're on camera. And look at people who have anon on it, and they sort of think about they're a conspiracy theorist or they're this or that. You know, we have all of our beliefs that we hold. So rather than looking at the beliefs of why anybody would be so anonymous or would have the name unknown or the letter Q or any of that, it's important that we step back and listen to what they actually have to say and understand why they might want to be anonymous. So in all of this that I've been looking at, why would people want to be anonymous? Got to answer that question, right? It's because many people have had their lives taken away from them in various ways for having themselves out there. Many people have put up videos on, let's say, YouTube and have had their channel taken down many times. And is it because they're saying something awful? Most of the time, no. What they're doing is they're sharing information that the people that control YouTube don't want you to know. So the great thing with the internet at this point is it's going to get out one way or another because that's the way the internet is at this point. If they can have a dark web and there can be all this, you don't even want to know what's going on in the dark web. But if they can have all that going on, then you're going to find another, which is why I go on Rumble all the time. So I go onto Rumble, and there's where I can find all of my favorite people who are sharing information and knowledge that help me to be aware of what's going on in the world. So he's up there pretty much at number one. And why is that? It's because he, number one, comes from a very spiritual approach. He's a very kind man. You can hear it in what he says. You can hear it in how he is sharing his message and the importance of his family. The importance of why does he share it is because he wants to make the world a better place. And the guy is ridiculously brilliant. So when you're listening to his podcast, he brings in all of these different people, all of this different kind of information. So he gets into what's happening globally. So, and it's not hearsay, it's not, nonsense that he makes up. He's literally got the information down and he goes really seriously digging for it and then he puts it together in a file. So when you're listening to these files, he's helping all of us to understand this is what's happening right now. And when importantly, and as importantly, here's where it is our intention to be going, and here's how we're gonna get there. So for people like me that are looking at all this stuff, it's like, all right, I can latch on to that kind of a timeline. I can see that that is happening. And to be clear, he's been on for 2 years. I've been watching for these 2 years. What he was saying 2 years ago, I see it happening. And so there is this thing where it's like when I was watching the news 4 years ago, it's like, I would have said something. It's like people are like, "Audrey, you're nuts." But then 2 years later, maybe 2.5, 3 years later, these things are happening. And what I'm watching is what I knew back here is finally coming out of the news now, and things are speeding up. So when I'm watching something like SG, there's a part of it where it's like his information is assiduously and kind of holding the line within myself, within my prayers. So when I saw that this event was going to be happening, there's this woman by the name of Mary Crowley, and she has a podcast as well. And I'm going to post all of the links for this. Um, but you can go to Mary Crowley, MeriCrouley.com, and you can see all of her information. So she's the one that was hosting this event. So I've been watching her as well. She brings some very interesting guests on, and she's a very good interviewer. So as I'm watching all these people coming through, she says, "Oh, they're having this event, Open the Heavens." On Saturday, this past Saturday, I was like, and she's having my two of my favorite people. Oh, just head on down there. And I was so excited to go. And Spirit was like, "You need to go to this event. You're going down there." I was like, okay, oh my God, my book can go. And then I looked at the map, 2.5 hour drive. I was like, what? Maybe I don't really need to go. I can watch it online. I could watch the podcast of it. And Spirit was like, no, you're going. So I got up early in the morning and drove my butt down there, and I am so glad that I did. So not only were those 2 favorite people, but I met some other people as well. And it's very clever the way that she put this on because in what we're all doing, there's all these systems that we have going on. And like I've said to you before, by the way, had she had left there, that would have been a real big bonus because Bruce Lipton said back in 2009 in his book Spontaneous Evolution, which he wrote in 2008, and everybody knows what was happening in 2008. So he put this book out in 2009, and in there he wrote, "We have all these systems, and they're no longer sustainable. Literally not working, and it needs to be where these systems collapse, and there needs to be new systems in their place." And I remembered reading that at the time and going, uh, I don't even know how you do that because when you're talking about systems, you're talking about government system, judicial system, financial system, environmental system, health system, school system. So all systems, as we've all been watching, have been not doing so well. I mean, all of them. So when we're looking at this, it's like, all right, so what I'm looking at is an unveiling of why they're not working and watching them kind of get revealed for the corruption in many of them, the manipulation of many of them. So when Bruce Lipton was saying we need to have these systems collapse, I really believe that we're at a moment where that's kind of what we're observing, and we're all in the middle of it. And I think that it's getting revved up a bit. So even just the financial system, and I've talked about this before, I'm going to talk about it again, and then I'm going to mention the speakers that was there with the financial system. There's things that are happening that we're not going to be watching on the mainstream news. They don't want you to really know what's going on because they want you to be doing, their CBDC or whatever the heck they want you to be doing. But what's actually happening is there are these countries, the BRICS, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. 20 years ago, they started this because they're looking at our petrodollar and they're going, not a lot of value behind that dollar. So maybe we need to come up with a new financial system that's global where we can have value to whatever currency that it is that we're using. So these countries all gathered together, and now over the past period of time, they have been including other countries. So there's another 120 countries at whatever point, maybe more at this point, that have decided to join with the BRICS nations. And so when we're looking at all of that, at a point it gets to be about 70% of the world's financial market. And there's a point where our dollar becomes even less valuable, less worthy. So we're in a moment where the financial system is looking different and it looks like it may collapse. And the really interesting thing is there's all these countries that have now put a new system into place. So why is this important for us? Because when we have that knowledge, when we have that understanding, then we can take whatever measures that are necessary at the moment. So back to the Open the Ends event, which it was really just such a good event. There was singing, there were all these, I mean, there were speakers having to do with every aspect of society. And this guy had a part of it where it was financial aspect. He has an organization, great, what was the name of it? I'm missing the name of it. I will put it in the, it was basically, this guy has for 20 years been showing people how we don't have to pay in, that thing that we all usually pay once a year. And so he was doing his PowerPoint. And by the way, you can watch this, all of the whole event on Mary Crowley on Rumble. So it's the Open Heavens event. You can see there's three of them. There's a Friday night and two for Saturday. So the early morning Saturday. In there, you will find this guy. His name is Payman, and I can't even begin to tell you how to pronounce his last name. But if you saw that post that I did, there's a picture of him. And when he was talking, he's literally showing you how we don't have to be doing that. He's been showing people for 20 years. Nobody's ever gone to jail. So the bottom line of it that I'm going to say, because I don't want to say a lot on here and for them to get myself into trouble, if you don't sign that tax return, then there is a way that you can not have to make those payments or payment or whatever. But once you sign it, because of he shows you the fine print, once you actually sign it, then you have said, this is what I will do. And that's why people get thrown into jail. And that's why people have such an issue with this. So I'm not the expert on it, but from what he's saying, all these people that have gone through his school, none of them have gone to jail. None of them have had a problem. And he said something that's also important. It's we have been taught to be terrified of those people. We have literally been taught, heaven forbid, we don't do that. And so nobody even questions it. Nobody looks at it. But I think it was at least 3 years ago, I started seeing these videos where you're talking to people who work for that organization. And there is no law that says we have to pay it. The crazy thing about it is those taxes that we pay, they don't even go towards what we're doing in our cities and in our states. That's the money that we're paying other people. You know what I'm saying? So it was a very informative session. The guy was very amusing when he was talking. So You might wanna check out him in that talk that he did, but I'm not the expert in it, I'm not saying that it will actually happen or not, but the information that he was sharing was very compelling. So, I laughed with him way back in my early 20s, kind of when I was first started working. My friend Robert would even attest to this. I had this moment where I was like, "I'm not gonna pay my taxes." Very conscious. And I didn't have all of this information, and I told him, I said, "Man, I wish I'd known you back then. I didn't pay those taxes, and I incurred a lot of, extra money that I had to pay at that time." So, I was laughing. I said, "I wish I'd known you back then." At any rate, that's something that people are actually doing, and it's working for them. So, it might be interesting to check out. I don't know, I haven't checked it out yet. I just was watching him and, you know, it seems very interesting. So that was one part of the day, and then he had all these other people that came in that were talking about our health and how to make that better, and there were people that were, just fascinating, and it was very interesting. So I wanted to share a funny part about what happened on that day too. So, 2 things. One, there was a point where I was waiting in line to go and do a meet and greet because I had a VIP ticket. So I'm waiting in line and I'm talking with some people there, and I was saying, "I really like so and so," and then we started comparing notes. "Who do you listen to? Where do you get your information?" So I pull out my phone and I'm looking and I really like this guy on School.gov, Lewis Herms, and I'm talking with these people and they look at me and they're like, "Audrey, he's right behind you." It's like, "What?" I turned around and there he was, and I looked at him and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're like a bonus today." And so we got into a whole long conversation, and he is one thing about all the people that were there, everybody was so nice. Everybody was very conscious. It was like such a good atmosphere, and everybody was very, just agreeable with each other. So here's this guy that I've been watching for a while too, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so we have this whole conversation, and I was able to ask him some important questions that I've been wondering. You just can't ask these people stuff all the time. So it was very fun to talk with him as well. So he's got a podcast. All these podcasts are on Rumble, and his name is it's Screw Big Guy. And he's one that he gets into, like, for instance, on that day, the reason he was there, they had a whole group of them that went down to the border. You know, we have a serious issue with what's going on at our border. And again, I don't know that you're gonna see that kind of information on your mainstream, but these people went down there, and these people, all of them, you can see it, you can hear it in their word, you can see it in their eyes. They're all doing this because they love our country and because they want our children to have they want us all to have our freedom. So they do it because it's a calling, like me doing this podcast. It's the calling, me going down there that day. Spirit was like, "You're going." And I think that's what happens with all of us. It's like we see what's going on. We have the ability to use our logic, use our discernment, and understand a bigger picture. And we have the ability to step back from our judgment and look at what's true here. And there's a lot of things that people hear on other avenues that are simply not true. So when you go to an event like this, people are unfiltered and they're really able to share this is what's going on. And then we are able to make those conscious decisions, all those logical, reasonable, looking at it with a new perspective and be able to do something from a point of our power, not a point of just following along blindly. And I always go back to that thing when I was telling somebody a lot of years ago about those lines, the sky, and this girl looked at me and she was like, "Oh, Audrey, the government would never do that to us." And I'm having a rude awakening. It's gonna be a moment where it's gonna be, like, interesting when people realize people do all kinds of things to us, and we have to now wake up and be aware of what that looks like, what it means, and more importantly, how to make our own choices with this. So thank you, Louis, for all the information you shared, and now we'll get on to the next thing. So, I'm like 62, so I've been around. I was laughing with myself. I used to have celebrities, like, I used to have, oh my god, the biggest crush on Kenny Loggins, and then I had people that I look up to, and I'm like, years and years ago, Barbra Streisand was one, and some other people that I'm not even gonna mention. So, I was laughing, it's like, now I've reached a new point in my life. Certain people are heroes for me, certain people are, like, my celebrities, you know? So, this is the funny part. So, I thought that I would see everybody at the meet and greet, that's the idea of it. So, I walk into, the main room where people are sitting around with their books and all their stuff that they're doing, and I walk in, and I just glance over here, and there was Kathy O'Brien. Now, in my book, she is like a big hero, like, up there at a very big top point, and I looked at her and I was like I was a little bit speechless. She must have thought I was a little cray-cray, just saying, and I was just like, "Wow, there you are." And I was able to have, like, this whole full out conversation with her. I must have been, I'm sure, a little gushing. At any rate, it was so incredible to meet her in person and to just appreciate her. This woman, her story is just so important, and the fact that she was so brave to be one of the first to talk about sex trafficking, to talk about her experience and what happened to her. A lot of people, she's been talking since 19, I believe, 88 about her experience and looking at the perpetrators that did things to her to get them held responsible. And she's still on a mission with it. And along with revealing that information and sharing her story, which now, since she was so brave to come forward, now all these other people have come forward who have been in the same situation as her. And I'm not going to tell a lot of her story because I'm going to share a link where you can watch it. It's important to understand when she's talking, it's not just her story. Now it's a whole bunch of other people. And it's important to get for our minds. There's a part of it where, like, I don't even know. That can't be true. Certainly, the government wouldn't do that to us. It's important to get a lot of things that have been going on that our brains find it hard to compute. So when she's telling her story, just listen with an open mind and understand there is her story and then a lot of other stories. So when you hear it and you're able to get an understanding of it, an awareness of it, it's important that her story be heard. It's important that we get these things are happening in the world. Mary, so right before Kathy came out and did her talk, Mary Crowley has a video, a documentary that she did. It's called Freedom Cry, and it's about women and trafficking. So in my lifetime, it has been the kind of thing where I've been watching it get worse and worse and worse. Not only women in trafficking and prostitution, but I mean, there's a whole bunch of news that's out recently about all these kids that are getting found. And you should look at the numbers of kids that go missing. It's insane. insane. And now when we have these borders open, the things that are happening with trafficking of children and other, like, adults, not only women, but men as well, and what they're doing with these people that are being trafficked. It's not all about sex. They're using their bodies in various ways. And so it's important to not go into our cognitive dissonance that part of it is like, "Ah, la, 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 I don't wanna hear it." Because if we don't acknowledge it and in some way, shape, or form, even if it's holding it in prayer, like I do a lot of the time, and having that understanding that as we're all in this field of prayer, as we all hold it in our consciousness, this is getting revealed. These children are finding a way out and having the life that they deserve. All of the things that we would want to hold in prayer. It's important to be able to do this. So when Mary puts out this documentary that's so important, Freedom Cry, she's talking about how young girls go into trafficked, who go into prostitution, how they are manipulated into it. And there's all these people that are telling their stories. And the cool thing is, she tells the stories, and it's also this guy who was the pimp, his story. You gotta remember, everybody at a point in their stories, it's like nobody came out a pimp. Nobody came out in that violence. Nobody came out of the womb where this is my experience, this is what I'm gonna create for myself because it's so exciting. Everybody's been manipulated in some way, shape, or form into it. So when she's telling that story and we're able to witness it and we're able to hold it in the highest, the cool thing about the story is at the end, how they found their freedom, how they found their freedom was in the power of God. And that's one of those things, all of this, but it's important for us to remember. So however you hold it in the highest, whatever that is for you, God, source, intelligence, divine matrix, whatever that looks like, that's the glue. That's the thing. That's what will bring us back to this unified connection with each other. So I love that Mary showed all of this darkness and then the light at the end, the solution at the end, the solution at the end. So the important part of this whole conversation is when we're in the moment now, and there is this part of us, we all want our freedom, but in reality, we can't be free if all these people aren't. We can't be free if this thing is continuing and we choose not to look at it. As an example, you can pick any one of the girls that's in her documentary. They have loving parents. This one had a loving father, and he had had his story, which created her story. I had my story that I had to change. My daughter didn't have my story. So when we're looking at this for parents, why would you want to look at it? Why would you want to hold it in the highest? Why would you want to do whatever you can do to make this where we have a greater awareness and the ability to, as a collective consciousness, change it because it affects you in some way, shape, or form. If it's not in this moment, it will. Kind of honestly, it doesn't where that I don't want to look, I don't want to be with it. It's still in your consciousness. And it creates an unconscious level of fear. And that's exactly what we want. Because when we're in fear, we're not thinking clearly. When we're in fear, we're easily manipulated. When we're in fear, we don't question authority. So when I go to an event like this and I see these people being right, it just makes my heart happy. So I saw Kathy. It's like I was just It's really a pleasure, and she was so kind, and she was so nice, and then when she was up on the I made a video of it, and you can look at it, just that video of her section on my Conscious Mind Training on YouTube. I'm telling you, I highly recommend watching it because the thing that she did, she was rescued out of it. So she talks about her story of what happened to her as a child and how her mind was taken away. So it's important that you understand we have a lot of trauma. When we have continual trauma, there was massive amounts of trauma. I'm sure that she experienced. I've seen a lot of these stories of people who have experienced that. When that happens, it creates this moment where we are not present in our mind. We're literally just dissociated. We're not present. So for her, there was this man who worked for the letter agency, and he was starting to recognize that these things were going on within the government. And he found her and he rescued her and her daughter out of that world. And he knew enough to help her to reprogram herself. And he couldn't reprogram her, she had to do it. So she has a book out where she talks about what that process looks like. Again, you can look at trance-formation.com and look at the books that she has. And there is that fear and the power work that I do. And it's super important that people get, you can't just like swirl it around a lot of time in your mind. That's why when my clients come in, I have them take that process. False evidence appearing real. What are the feelings? Write it down. Do the critical thinking. What is this? What show up in your timeline? How do you own being the adult and recognizing that, like in her situation, she had told him, I can't live with myself with what I've done. He was able to show her it's not you that did it. You were programmed to do it. Those people are responsible, not you. So when we're all looking at our timeline, there's things that I did. It was a program. I know exactly where it came from. So when I'm doing that work around it and I'm recognizing through that critical thinking, what is this? Oh, it's that program came from that place, that person, that thing, that experience. Oh, this is who I am. And then important down that intention line, I am. Who do I, the conscious person? Now that I see the program, I'm the reprogrammer. I get to reprogram it and I reprogram everything. So like Kathy O'Brien, he was able to help her. And she, in that talk that she did, she talks about the importance of writing and how that draws it out of the mind onto the paper. It's almost like you're drawing out the program, drawing out the experience, throwing it onto that paper. Then you are rewriting a new story. So, like when we do our full moon celebration, throw that paper away if you want. It's no longer necessary. You've changed the program. You've changed your life. That's what Kathy O'Brien did. And it's such a beautiful thing that she's able to share that and that process. So I highly recommend going to her website and looking at her information. I actually have a movie. We're going to have a movie night. We're going to watch it. So I bring all of this up because in this moment in time, it's so important. But if we don't look at it now, I can guarantee next year, it's all going to come out anyway. And if you're not aware, taking that time to look at it on your own is going to be like a slap upside the head if you find out all in one big rush. So when you find these things, oh, I didn't know that was going on. When you have the time to process the information, like when I found out some of these things, really a lot for me. And I would have these moments where I'd have to go to the beach and just because it's a lot. And then I could process it and I could in a moment like this where I'm able to talk about it because I'm focused on solutions. I'm focused on the world that we're creating in this moment as these things annihilate, they get done. I didn't have enough time to talk about the other people that were there. There was a guy by the name of Davy Lou, Davylu, and all of this stuff that's happening with some of the things that our children are reading and watching on their movies, on their screens. He's creating an avenue along with Mary Crowley in the studio, and he's got these children's that were just I'm looking forward to reading it with my little people. So he's somebody that you can look up as well. And there was a woman, excuse me, her name was Sheila Holm, HL, and she was fascinating as well. She really gets into, again, a lot of information that we just have had no awareness of. Like, for instance, have you ever heard of the Georgia Guidestones? Georgia Guidestones? I'm gonna say that. She gets into a lot of really interesting information. So you can look her up as well. Who else was there? Andrew Seraphin. I believe he was the one that was talking about more holistic health and all of the new solutions that are out there for health. So I really want you to get we're in a moment right now where there's all of these great things that are happening. And then there's all of this stuff. And when I'm looking at all this information, my focus is on the great things happening. Like there's some major, major medical things that are going on that are really healing in the body. And there's all of this stuff that's going on with the financial system that's going to be really, really great for all of us. There's things that are going on within our school system that are fantastic. So funny. I had a college kid today that I was working with, and I was saying, it was a new client, I was saying that part about the critical thinking and how important it is. And I kind of looked at him, I said, you know, your generation, because of course he's a younger 20 something person. And I said, your generation, unfortunately, it's like you all had to deal with so much. You know, they're the first kind of line of babies that have got caught up in here. And for a lot of them, there's a lot of social anxiety. They're the generation that really had to deal with being on lockdown. And I was talking to him because I was explaining to him how important critical thinking is in the day-to-day life. That's that thing where you're taking what's the subconscious and you're bringing it to an awareness and that ability to look at it with logic, reason, deduction, you know, all of those things that we get to do. And so I said, you know, you guys didn't learn critical thinking. He laughed and he goes, Audrey, they took it out of the curriculum. Like, of course they did. Of course they did. So it was just an amusing, not so amusing moment with me and this client. So it's a really important time if we don't have the information, we don't have the knowledge, and we really can't accurately do the critical thinking part of it. And so when I went to this event, it just opens up a bigger avenue. And quite honestly, it was really nice to be in the company of a lot of people who have this awareness and who are doing things that are constructive for society. So then I want to talk a little bit more about this guy, SG. You know, you never know when you're going to meet somebody in person. And I'm telling you, I wait for his videos to come out. You can look at him on Rumble, and he is the Q News. And again, don't get caught up in the Q thing. He's a news person, and at this point, I truly believe we all should be patriots. Being a patriot means I love this land. I love this country. I love my freedom. I'm going to do anything and everything to make sure that my children are having their freedom. Because at this point, some of the things that I've been looking at, what we have been not told not about our freedom. So when you hear the word patriot, I like it. So with him, I'm telling you, his information is so good. Go back and just look at any of his files. You can go back and look at his files, and you can see how those things were accurate. So when I saw him, like the last person in line, because I was busy chatting with the other people, and I see him, I'm telling you, he's also a very energetic person. So, like, for instance, when he was doing his talk, for him, like what I do, there's a part of it where you really have to learn how connected we are with source, with spirit, with God. And so he came out and imagine straws, and then there is a copper wire in the straw, and he's showing us how energy moves. Like there's this girl that you watch. For him, you couldn't see the copper wires as much of what they were doing. But he's literally holding that energy, and we can make things happen. Like, for instance, I've got this necklace that I wear, and I use it as a pendulum sometimes. It's the same sort of thing. I ask questions, and it moves on its own. My phone can be stone still, and I ask, what's yes? What's no? Sometimes when I'm not 100% about something, I'll ask, and I'll get an answer. 90% of the time, it's exactly on, and sometimes I'll still get a little caught up in my own stuff around it, I think. So for him, he's well, by the way, that girl that you can look up copper, I don't know what you would call it, but she's showing, she's just holding the straws, so she's not holding the copper at all. And she's asking questions, and when the copper moves a certain way, it's the same kind of thing. It's a yes. If it moves another way, it's no. And you can see how that's kind of a form of dowsing. So he is up there on stage, and he first comes out and he starts telling us some of the news that he saw. And again, I'm not going to tell you a lot of what he said because I'm going to make a big video of him as well and put it up there, him and Kathy O'Brien. But in the information that he was sharing, there's a part of this, and this is important. This is like the bottom line. We all are powerful creators, and when we're able to be in that understanding and have that awareness of what is going on right now, then we all are able to be creators in the moment and affect the timeline we're all choosing, affect the trajectory of what it is that we're doing. And he says it in such a way that is just very information oriented. He's very clear and concise in how he talks. And I mean, it's across the board. He can be interviewing on huge people. It's all, everybody just is like, dude, you've got the greatest information, and your way of presenting it is just spot on. It's really, really good. So back to when I met him, again, he's a celebrity to me, right? And I drove 2.5 hours to see him and Kathy. So I'm at the end of the line, and I looked at him, and I was like, I don't even know what my face looked like, but I was like, there you are. And his energy was so good. And he was like, and we just gave each other a hug. It was like such a kind man. Now you can't make that step up. You just can't make that kind of energy. You can't fake that kind of thing. And I'm real good at sensing people's energy. So there's a part where you listen to somebody all the time. You don't really see him because he's not like this. He's just got his We Are Inevitable picture. But when you meet somebody like that in person, and you catch that energy and you see that kindness and you understand the wisdom and the intelligence that this guy has, it was like it was like one of those just beautiful moments. I mean, I was on a high the whole day anyway, but when I met him, it was like, wow, you are just thank you. All I had to do was say thank you, but I'm sure I gushed on a little bit. But the reason why I say that this is also important, sometimes we don't know where to go for news. And I look at all these different people, and some of the people that I've looked at over these years, I don't look at them. I can see where they maybe got caught up in making money with it or got caught up in too much of a product, or they maybe weren't so accurate. And it's like blowing smoke at plants or something like that. I don't follow everybody, but there is people calling me. I thought I turned off my notification. There are those people that I have followed for a long time who have continued to be authentic, who have continued to put first and foremost why they're doing this, and sharing information that is relevant, it's valuable, and it's information like for him. He talks about it globally. He says this is what's going on with regard to Russia, this is for Ukraine, this is China, Japan, all of these places, and he gets intel. And from what I can see, all of it at this point, I've not seen anything that has given me cause to be like, I don't know about this person. And I mean, there's been a lot of other people where I'm like, not so much. So when you're looking to understand what's going on right now, he is a great source. Kathy's a good source. Lewis Hum is a good source. But take some time, and you don't have to watch these people. You can listen in the background while you're doing something. You turn off the other stuff, turn on this stuff. Because at this point, on the day before the 4th of July, when we're looking at freedom, there's other countries that don't have their freedom. Their people thought they would never be in that situation. I'm sure that people in Germany never thought that the things happen there would happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow and steady process of manipulation. So this has been going on for a good 70 plus years that we have been under manipulation. So when you are able to step back and choose new habits, new places where you are watching news, if you're not watching, if nothing else, if you find yourself in fear, to God and pray and trust that divine right action is taking place for all of humanity. If there's a part of it I don't want to look at it, I get it. I get it. You don't have to. In fact, for those that are really in a don't, but don't be in fear either, because in the long run, God is that. So when you're praying, I am that. I am. And that's what flows through here. That's what flows through all of life. So when you're stepping out of that fear, you're holding yourself in the highest. You're holding everything in the highest. You're trusting and having faith that people who are looking are doing the right thing. Then you're in your power. Then you're playing for the right team. Because when we live in fear, you're playing for the other team in their game. So I get it. You don't want to look at anything. And if you do, these are sources where it's not going to be scary. It's not going to be, where they're throwing all kinds of horrible stuff out. They're throwing information and solutions. So when we're all in this moment together and you want to be in this country where we're proud to be an American, because at least we're now free, do anything that you can to focus that attention on freedom. Focus anything that you can to bring your attention to the goodness that is most of all humans. Most of us just want to be having a good life. Most of us want to be in love. Most of us want to be successful and abundant and healthy. So when you find yourself in a moment where it's not where you are in this, where you are in that in any way, shape, or form in fear. Stop, catch yourself. It's like I'm looking at that hurricane that's coming up, Beryl. I think there's possibly birds that are flying in the middle of that huge storm because that's where the calm is. And those birds will just keep flying in the direction, they'll keep staying in the middle of that, and they will find their way to the end of the storm or not. But that's their best course of action. They got caught up in it, right? So when we're in a moment like this and there is this storm, it's already happening. I see. And all these people that were there on Saturday, they see it too. We're all looking for and creating the solutions to get on the other side of that storm. So if you're finding yourself getting tossed a bit, find the eye where you are calm, the eye of the storm, where you are calm. Keep your hands at your feet in the vehicle at all times. If you see something going on out there, don't reach out and grab onto the drama. Don't reach out and grab onto any terror, any fear, any of those things. Stay in how you are in the moment. There is a mantra, I am grounded, centered, focused, and calm. And you keep checking yourself. Am I okay? I'm okay. I'm going to stay okay. And I'm going to trust that the people that I love, the people around me, all this, we're finding a way through this storm together. And if something looks unlike it, find a solution. Focus your full attention on anything that you can do that brings you back to your power. Is not near fear. Anything where you can be calm. On my website, I have a meditation called Calm is a Choice. Take a moment, listen to that. If you find that you're not sleeping well, go to the deep sleep meditation and listen to that when you're going to bed. If you wake up in the middle of the night, listen to it then. Do anything that will bring peace to your mind. Like I've got some books that I will listen to at night if I wake up and it's like my mind's a little busy. Get me a little busy. Then I'll listen to those books and they're very soft and soothing. Pulse sound. And it's good information. And if I fall asleep to it, it's okay. It soothes my mind. It brings my attention back to grounded, centered, focused, and calm. So when you're looking at all of this, find people in your community, join with my community, join here on this podcast, do those things that bring you together with like-minded people. You don't need to go out and shout this to the rooftops. But when we set an example of being in that calm, an example of being that knowledge, having that awareness, that people will have the ability to see that, recognize your energy, your calmness, and that can be a source for other people. So being of service in the world, I think is a great idea at this point. And because we have all been so divided, it's a good thing for us all to come together in community, that common unity. So with my last little minute here, I just want to say happy freedom to all of us. Own that the shackles are done, that we're owning our financial, our health, our love, our joy, our peace, that we're sovereign citizens. And then take those steps to make that absolute in your life. I love you all very, very much. Thank you so much for watching. And I will be back on next week, possibly with a guest. And I look forward to seeing you. So have a safe and beautiful week ahead. Much love. Bye bye for now.